Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the RuneQuest rules by Chaosium Incorporated. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. Strong language, mature scenes, and rune magics are on the way. As this is our Glorantha, we will remind listeners that it may vary from the one you already know and love. And now, on to the show. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways podcast. I am your game master this evening, Michael Diamond. My pronouns are he, him. And we are back with RuneQuest, Adventures in Dragon Pass. We welcome you back to our exclusive show on Glorantha. Because we haven't spawned another one yet, but who knows, right? At the top of the show, as I always like to do, I like to welcome you in as both the listener and especially you Patreon supporters, especially those of you who have begun casting your hands of fate for this show. I am so pleased to see how many of you are interested in, we'll just say, adding to the fun with our characters. And as always, you can find us all over social media, Blue Sky, YouTube, Patreon as well. So if you're interested in joining in and all the fun on Patreon, it's patreon.com/theoldwayspodcast. And check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/theoldwaystwitch. And now I'm going to begin introductions with the player to my right.
Hi, everybody. This is Heather, and I am playing Lysana. My pronouns are she, her, and I welcome everybody back to let's see what happens when we leave Boldhome behind. Boldhome, we barely knew you.
Does seem to be so. And next to Lysana.
Hello, this is Jake. I'll be playing Varghast. I guess Boldhome now. For lack of a better, and we are going to begin this epic quest, as so many do, Guardian Caravan.
It's really a classic tale of applying your trade and your skills out to, to further the capitalist ends.
Right.
Next to Varghast.
This is Morgan, and I play Alara, formerly of Hillbase Stead. I mean, it's still there, but I'm not there at the moment.
Is it though? Is it actually there?
I don't think it really is. I think it was all burned to the ground, unfortunately.
It's basically been burned.
Yeah, and that makes me mad. Her pronouns are she, her, and I am a devout cultist of Marangor. And Marangor is the Earth Shaker and sister of vengeance, and of earthquakes and quake beasts. And we're leaving Boldhome behind, which is good because there were a lot of Lunars there.
Yeah. On the road, off enjoying yourself. And last but most certainly not least.
Hi, this is Rena. I'm playing Faisal. Our pronouns are any and all for this evening. And I am an initiate of Humocht and of Heller, and I'm headed home for a little bit.
Yeah, it's fabulous, right? It's a wonderful opportunity for you to head home, wonderful opportunity for you to experience all the joy that comes with a homecoming. And really, you've only been gone a few days, which is nice. We are in the missing Finn formation for this episode. I will just mention, of course, Finn, beloved trickster and discordant member who follows Ermal. I am certain that whatever Finn is up to, the party won't reap the, after effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to part the veil, as we like to say here in Glorantha, and I'm going to look down at a series of caravan wagons, which are making their way out of Boldhome and into the northern portion of the area around Boldhome. And so Boldhome being the capital, it being lunar occupied as well, there is almost a relief, I think, Varghast, at being able to separate oneself from so many additional lunar troops, getting back out onto the road, being able to really get an idea of what exists out here, seeing those spaces, maybe seeing a whole lot less lunar troops. But that said, you're still dealing with a few things, right? So your connection to Orlanth is very personal, and it's something that's very important to you and very important to the Sardarite people. To come to the capital and not be able to visit a temple here because the Lunars have closed the temple is really difficult to take. You're glad to be back out under the road, where at least you likely will see a little less in the way of impingements on your freedom. I wonder, as the voyage across these green grasses and rocky spaces gets started, what do you think Vargas does? What position does he take as far as where he guards the caravan from? What's his mentality when it comes to this sort of thing?
I'm guessing that he would probably be towards the front. You know, we want to see if problems coming from the front to us. Knows that the rest of the troop can handle behind us. So, lead from the front.
Makes sense. Okay. So I will dive back then and ask Alara. Alara, you're lucky in the sense that you have a mostly heavy mix of your fellow Sardarites around in this caravan. But that doesn't mean that there aren't others here. And it also doesn't mean that some of them aren't lunarized. But you have the benefit of having a constant companion with you. And that companion is our cat, the shadow cat that you've named, and has been, working its way with you. I wonder what position you're taking on the caravan, and then are you having our cat stay close, even though his presence might worry some of the beasts of burden?
So I would probably be, knowing that Vargas is towards the front of the caravan, I would take a position more likely in the back so I can keep an eye on things. And then I would ask our cat, because I don't own him, he's just with me and he's allowed to go wherever he wants. I would ask him if he could keep it, do some, I'm going to say surveillance. Surveillance really isn't the right word. Just keep circling the caravan to make sure that there's nothing afoot that would cause harm, and making sure everybody's safe, but not so close to the beasts of burden that are pulling the oh my god, I can't think of words. I'm so sorry. Pulling the wagons. There we go. Mm-hmm. And just so we don't want to scare them. So it's just making sure he keeps a safe distance.
So I'm going to ask you something. Do you have beast speech, the skill?
I do not actually have beast speech.
All right, I have a follow-up question for you if you don't mind. My next question is, have you ever tried to tell a cat what to do?
Oh yeah, in real life?
Have you ever tried to tell a cat what to do and give it detailed directions?
It's gonna be like, I'm gonna do like some sign language stuff, like, hey. Oh, actually, I do have understand herd beast, but he's not a herd beast.
He is certainly not a herd beast in any way, shape, or form. That's a predator.
It's true. Nope, I guess he's just with me. Okay. If I can't tell him, he's gonna be.
I don't know that he's even with you per se.
He's just wandering.
He's probably doing whatever he wants.
That's true.
And so I'll just keep that in mind as we move along. And of course, not to look over or potentially besmirch our Ernaldan priestess about what she might be doing. I wonder how you're spending your first voyage out of Boltholm after just so quickly getting into Boltholm.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty whirlwind there. Touch and go. But curiosity would win out. So as the trip goes, there would be conversations with anybody who's not part of her group. Find out more about what is going on in the world. And I mean, the conversations would be very wide-reaching in terms of subject matters. So like one would lead to another, would lead to another, would lead to another. I mean, when you have nothing to do but walk and, through the travel, and then it's viewing the sights. I mean, seeing the people the other merchants and other people on the road, just the landscape, how different it is. I for whatever fear or anger, this actually is probably the grounding. At some point, probably at least a little ways in, after several hours of walking, she's probably very tired and body weary because it's just so much to take in. And as she would probably take a minute and sit on the ground and reach out to Arnalda, basically impart that Arnalda was right. She was feeling her feelings, and there were a lot considering everything. And this trip, she sees it as kind of Arnalda's way of guiding her along with the party, not just to the party's end goal, but to help Lysana find herself again, to recenter herself, to ground herself, to bring herself back to the earth and to Arnalda's teachings, so that she can move forward with more clarity, and not let the rage and the pain of what's just happened only a short time ago and the uncertainty, and letting all that get to her. So she's reining it in. She's taking the time and reining it in, at the same time finally getting to do like she would do with her uncle around the fire, and ask a gazillion questions about anybody who's willing to listen and talk to her, to find out as much as possible about everything.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. You can probably move between both, sitting on the ground and then also, letting perhaps just letting the convoy pass for a little while and then picking back up and walking with it, and then sort of doing this rhythmic thing where you're able to get a little bit of additional rest. Not everybody has to walk, clearly, but there are only so many, wide benches for people to sit on, and every one of these caravans has a driver and then also someone beside them to watch out for rocks or to, have a sling or a bow available. So you're able to do a little bit of almost rhythmic meditation in that regard.
Yeah, Lysana would definitely lean right into that, because I think she knows when you're when your goddess basically says, you need to chill the fuck out, and get back to yourself to move forward. She basically is going, yes, all right, you're right. Mother of all, mother of the earth. I kind of surrender this to you and help me work through this. I mean, if we think about it, we're still, Lysana at most is 17 at this point, I think 17. So when you are a 17-year-old girl, even at that stage, yes, you're a woman. She's gone through the change and everything else, but at heart, there is still that I was safe with my mom and my family kind of feel. So it's a lot. So I think she's turning that focus and need for comfort that she would normally find, and she's putting that in Mother, Earth Mother, in Arnalda.
Okay. Faisal, I'll bring the question to you. You have a distinctly different viewpoint, especially as you know these roads, at least a little bit. You've been to Boldholm now, and you know the peaks and valleys of this road, and this is a royal road, and so that is something that very distinctly you would know differs from some of the other roads here in Dragon Pass. They're also called the King's Road sometimes in this region. they're essentially, for our listeners, they're essentially the equivalent of modern day freeways. They're deliberately created rather than having been evolved organically. And so these roads are, as strangely as it might sound, they're actually relatively straight. And so that is something that it differs from any of the other style of roads that we all may encounter as we adventure together. One of the primary distinctions when it comes to a royal road is the fact that the road is a paved surface. And so this is actually quite different than the pathway here the Haraborn took to get to Boldholm from the south. This is definitely different, feels different. But I wonder what Faisal would be, sort of focusing on for their journey.
So Faisal has taken up position with the middle wagon. Mm-hmm. They've done some caravan guarding before, and from what they've learned and what they've experienced, bandits and so on will frequently attack the middle of a caravan because the front and the back tend to be very heavily guarded because people expect attacks from those positions. Mm-hmm. So they're keeping an eye out places that they might have noticed on the way up that you could potentially run into trouble, or where people could be waiting and lying in wait or hiding, and they're keeping a very close, watchful eye out.
Okay. All right. So I'm keeping a close, watchful eye out. That's quite the interesting sentence. So I think it might be a good idea, as you are keeping a very close eye out, as all of you undoubtedly are. I think one of the things that might be good is for the group to perhaps decide and tell me how they're going to perceive. What are they going to focus on? And we'll give them a perception type roll. So it could be something with their eyes. It could be something with their ears. How are they deciding to sort of pay attention to what's going on?
Faisal's definitely looking, because he was watching for things on the way up here.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you are going to use search?
Yeah, I'm looking for anything, movement or something out of the ordinary, something that sticks out.
Sure. Okay. So again, that's search. And then Heather, how's Lysana going to approach it?
I think Lysana's still fairly fascinated. I mean, she might keep an eye, with her tend to take everything in. It's a lot all at once, but also might give her a chance to catch something by searching.
Alara?
So I would be in the back of the caravan. I'd probably be standing on one of the wagons in the back so I can get a better view while I'm up there. And I mean, so are they covered wagons or are they just open?
Yeah, they're covered.
So if possible, I'd probably be on top of one so I could have a view and be able to call out if there's anything. Will it hold?
Basic fabric that rolls over. There's no way it will hold your weight.
Oh, shame.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just be standing on the back of the wagon, so I'll have a higher, point of view. Keeping an eye out.
Okay, so those are search rolls.
So, Lysana, search roll, that is a 12 under 25.
Okay, great.
Poor Vargas got a 90 over 30.
Ooh. 90 over 30, okay.
Alara got a 32 under 40.
Okay.
And Faisal has a 47 under 50.
Okay. So, in the distance, a couple of you see these little tiny clouds running along the ground level. You see that they're up on a slight rise as you're continuing to make your movement. These little clouds, perhaps it's a herd animal or something like that. It's still a little too far to make out, but one thing that is for certain, Alara, is that our cat has noticed them And our cat begins moving off in that direction.
Of course he does. Maybe he's gonna turn it away from us. Yeah, no, they're coming right for us.
I mean, I don't think that your cat would do that.
We're gonna Lion King this.
I mean, our cat might.
I call him. I do try to call him back.
You scream at him.
Yeah.
You ever tried to scream at a cat?
No, I wouldn't scream at him. I would yell for him to come back. I'm an animal lover.
Yep.
I mean, and sometimes they'll probably turn and stare at me and then go anyways.
You could if you wanted to. If you're really desperate, I would let you roll against your beast rune to try to connect with our cat.
Nice.
And implore him that you are the pack leader and that he needs to pay attention to you.
I'm there for it. I'm there. Let me roll against it. I got a 39 under 50.
Ooh, okay. So you stand up on one of the wagons and you get to a higher spot. You get up on the bench and you sort of move in position near one of the drivers, and you have to, gently assume almost a Captain Morgan-like stance with one leg high on it, so you can really push your voice out, and you call out to our cat, and there's this shake that goes through the pack animals. And some of the caravan the caravan you're in sort of speeds up. The wagon speeds up and you get jostled a little bit, but you see our cat turn his head around and he stops. And he's not shocked by you, but you've gotten his attention. And he sort of lopes a little closer back towards the caravan. He almost looks a little dejected.
Good. I don't want him stirring up more trouble.
Sure. These little clouds of dust seem to run for a little while, and then eventually you see a small pack of wild animals. They look like perhaps they're young cattle, something like that.
Are they coming for the caravan? Not coming for, but coming towards.
Now, it seems like they're coming towards it, but as you all keep your eyeballs on that space, because it's really one of the only things that seems to be interesting about what's going on, you can see behind these cattle, you can see that there's two distinct horsemen, and they seem to be trying to get a hold of them, like trying to get them under control.
Anyone good at dealing with cattle? Because I'm not.
Was going to point them out and ask one of the others on this trip. Oh, what are those? I mean, they're cattle, but I don't. What is that? Do you see them? And I'll point them out.
Yeah, you point them out. There's a few people that sort of move and adjust and look. Yep. Cattle. Probably trying to get free of something. One of the driver you're next to, Alara, says, there's an awful lot of cattle here that get driven out by, whether they be rubble runners or whether they be lunars breaking into tax some of these herders around here.
So those could be cattle that were stolen?
Could be, yep. Probably best not to get involved, of course.
I mean, of course. We're already on the road and they're not headed towards us. I totally understand. So I do have understand herd beasts, but do I have to be closer to them? I
don't know. What does understand herd beast do?
It's a skill. It's a magic skill.
The skill trains a person to perceive and interpret warning signs, movements, odors, and other gestures made by herd beasts. Speaking to animals is not possible with this skill.
Well, damn it.
I mean, you could still make the skill roll and glean some information about the animals here that are moving sort of parallel to where the caravan is, and then maybe even the riders behind them.
Okay, I'll try. I'll give it a go.
Okay.
I understand Jack Diddley squats. I got a 61 over 35.
Yeah, you're not really sure what's going on. It's hard to say. You're still at distance, and it's not like you're equipped with horses to run out there if you had an issue. So that's sort of a downside to not having your own horse. Maybe in Jonstown you'll be able to procure one. So the day moves along. And by and large, from Boldholm to Jonstown, it's roughly about a day's travel. You had gotten started a little later in the afternoon. You hadn't started in the morning. And so as you go, you realize you're going to have to make camp, which isn't a big deal. The caravan leaders and drivers here are perfectly professional and capable. They're able to move off the road just slightly, and then they do something very traditional, which is they make a big circle. And they find places for the animals to graze while they're still hooked up. But they're able to, release them from having to pull the wagons. And really, this is another place where your skills are going to probably come into use. And that's during night, when who knows what is going to come out and try to make trouble. So the drivers and some of the caravan folks, they don't even put up tents, really, given the weather. They put up simple blankets. They hook them to the caravans themselves. They stake one part of that material, the canvas, the sort of the heavier cloth. They stake it to the ground, and they have basically a lean-to with the caravan there. And that's what they sort of collect under. We'll say that there's, I said there's 7 caravans, if I remember this correctly. So we'll say there's a group of about 10 or so. And then you all. So they look to you for protection tonight. And so they've made that clear, like, hey, just keep everybody safe and we'll be good in the morning and we'll get to Jonstown by midday easy.
I'll take first watch if there's no objections.
I'll take a second watch.
Okay. Take second watch. There's a few bottles, maybe wineskins that go around. Most people here are pleasant. They're happy to share with what they have. You get the sense, though, this is probably something Lysana gets pretty quickly, and that is that a lot of the caravan folks are deeply concerned about what happens next in their lives. There's probably a lot of ruminating, especially after wine is passed out between people. It loosens people's tongues, and you start hearing about the hardships of the people of Dragon Pass.
She listens and just absorbs all of it. She provides comfort the best she can without any judgment, because she and really she shares in return, what happened in more of a general sense. She doesn't really go into specifics or giving away names and everything, except for the lunar side. That she doesn't mind sharing to some extent, but she speaks and tries to speak in terms of of their glory, of what they did, their bravery in defense and whatnot. But she really wants to hear from what they're doing. She knows from following and learning from her mom for all those years that you don't comfort someone by laying a whole bunch of stuff on them. So while she offers it on a, sometimes maybe if she feels like the subject needs to be changed a little bit or a little divergent, or that somebody might be interested in, or what they're talking about or complaining about lends itself to sharing. But she knows that generally shutting her mouth and opening her ears and just being there with a touch of the hand or shoulder or smile or whatever it is the best way to help somebody through.
Okay. Yeah, I think you all probably hear, those of you who are paying attention to the stories that some of these caravanners and traders are telling. You hear, well, really all except for Faisal, you hear something you really haven't heard, except outside of maybe the Asari's merchant that worked inside the Vale. You hear stories about the difficulties when it comes to lunar taxes. You hear the difficulties about the way of life in Sartar that has changed. You hear the almost resigned fate out of some of these people. They talk especially about the rebellion that failed, the flame of Boldholm that was extinguished. These are really, really sharp and sort of like significant parts of their lives, and how it doesn't seem like there's anything that can stop the Lunar Army. It's too big. It's all over the place. And they don't know how long Whitewall will hold out. And then there's this talk about the Crimson Bat and all these terrors. And then there's some folks who say, listen, we fought and we lost. And we have to accept the fact that our lives are different now. And so there's a lot of back and forth for those of you who are experiencing the camp area at that point and not sort of sticking to the outside and watching. You're all free to react, of course, to that.
Faisal is not drinking because still got a slight headache from last night. And also with being on watch, doesn't want anything impeding their judgment or vision, dexterity, any of that sort of thing. But is still partially listening to the discussion. Can't help but overhear it, even from patrolling on the outskirts. And wishing they could contribute to the discussion because they have strong feelings, but they're not going to leave their post.
You gotta be kidding me. You have strong feelings.
No, never, ever.
I couldn't believe that. You're just completely placid and easygoing on every subject there is. I can't believe you'd be strong-willed or strong-feelinged about anything. I mean, the Humakt are known to be simply easygoing. But Varghast, I wonder how those stories sort of resonate with you.
It makes them angry, very angry. Like, what happened to us was awful, but it's happening to everybody in different ways. And at some point he pipes up and we can't stop fighting. We can never stop fighting. They're a cancer. They're eating away at our land and our people. We need to stop them, drive them out.
Rebellion's been tried.
And we'll try again. And we'll keep trying until we win.
Do you have, you probably have Orate, right?
Yeah.
What's your air rune again?
My air rune?
Yeah.
90.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, given that your air rune is 90, you get swept up in your own feelings and you go a bit into a very classic monologue. I won't ask you to monologue now, as it is difficult sometimes to do it on demand, but yeah, you're going to feel impassioned to give some sort of speech to rally these people to Orlanth, because that's what has to happen.
They've taken our gods. They've taken our land. We can't let them take who we are.
So, yeah, give me first give me your air rune.
39 under 90.
Okay, so roll orate with 20 plus.
And that is 7.
Ooh. What's your orate?
35 or 55 now.
55. Okay, so 55 on a 7 is a special. So, Faisal, you are very dutifully paying attention to the space by the road and the where people have encamped. You've even gone over to some of the folks who maybe are a little too far away and suggested that in a manner of well-ordered things, so that way the defense of the caravan can be well, you probably need to move over here, just, be careful. And you keep hearing as you're moving around and sort of checking things and making sure that you're not being snuck up on, you keep hearing Varghast's voice sort of like over the din of the pack animals and all these different little insects that are beginning to blossom at night now, as the world is beginning to go through its full, rebirth cycle. And you hear the passion in his voice. You hear this oration going on, and you start hearing other people begin to verbally agree with him. And Orlanthe warriors are not unknown to you, obviously. You know many of them, at least by reputation. And you also know that it is very likely and possible that they could get, frankly, swept up into a fervor. And that sure sounds like exactly what's happening over there. Some of these men and women and others have had libations, and it sounds like something is brewing. So I'll just sort of put that in your ear.
Sort of internally sigh, because now I've got another thing I need to keep an eye on just in case. Basically.
But yeah, Varghast, you're successful. You get a couple people who say, one man says, you know what? The next time we come across one of these lunar scouts, we ought to put them in the ground.
Hear, hear. I don't like the lunars.
No, we're well aware that you're not a fan. I don't think any of the Hairborn, really anybody in the party, is a fan of them. But that is how the first half, we'll say, of the night goes. It is drinking. There are songs, and there are a lot of like rebellious feelings. Sometimes some of the songs they sing, Varghast, make the hair on your arms stand up. You get real invigorated and you sort of crackle. It's very difficult for you to find anything other to do than just wait for your turn at watch. You're wide awake now, though.
Unfortunately.
So let's see here. I'm going to make a roll just to be sure that everything is kosher. Okay. So Faisal, your time on watch goes uneventful. There are a few late night riders that pass you that go from seemingly are going to likely to Jonstown. They don't get near where the circle of wagons are, but you're fairly certain that they're likely messengers from any number of sources that are going to Boldhome. I assume that you watch them either way.
Yeah, I watch them till they're out of sight, and then watch a little bit longer just to make sure they don't double back.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Okay. And then, because I think it would be funny, how are you, what is the interplay between you and Varghast when it's time for Varghast's turn at watch? You like come over to like this group of men by the campfire, which is sort of dulled into mostly a bed of coals, but like, those campgrounds we've all been to, many of us have probably been to them, where The fire has been going for like a good 4 hours, and there is this mound of coals that are there. And you can feel the heat coming off of it. And there's many men here and women here who are probably a little too into their cups at this point. That's the fire you're approaching, Faisal.
Oh, I step around the fire and the people who are drinking and go up to Varghast, who's impossible to mix up with anybody else,
Yes.
as tall as he is, and just sort of look at him, try to measure if he's been drinking or not.
Nope.
All right. Well, your turn.
Sleep well.
It's been pretty quiet out there.
Good.
Happy to stay up if you want some company, but otherwise I'm gonna hit the hay.
Now I get some sleep.
All right. Just keep it calmer with the oratory for the rest of the night, if you don't mind. The last thing we need is a bunch of riled up drunks going off looking for trouble. Trouble will find us when it's time. It always does.
Okay. You pass from one watch to another. So, after about 2.5 to 3 hours, so this is probably beyond the middle of the night, it is soon, it's not even early light yet. There's something on the wind. You're not terribly certain what it is. It's out there. I would like you to make me a listen roll.
That is 11 under 35.
Okay. You hear a sound of a hoofed creature. You can tell it's hooves because they're hitting the finished road, but it's moving real slow.
I'll get over to the edge of the camp on that direction.
You get out to the edge, and in the pale and thin moonlight, as the red moon is yet a sliver now, there is a form coming into view on the road. It's probably 10 or so yards from your side of the road. And you see that there is a horse and that there is a rider. And the rider is seemingly slumped forward, and the horse is continuing on very slow.
I call out quietly, "Hail there."
I'm imagining Varghast, as large as he is, trying to be quiet. Right. It's sort of humorous. You call out, and the rider makes no movement. The horse continues forward. The horse is at a walking pace at best. You made the listen roll. Now I'm going to ask for the search roll to see if you can spot what's here.
Nope, that'd be an 88.
Okay. It passes along. It continues to get closer. And you don't notice it at first, but eventually it becomes impossible to miss. And you see two rather thick arrow shafts in the back of this person.
Okay, I will reach out and grab the horse.
Okay, you go over to the horse. When you go over to the horse, you see that the horse and the rider clearly are covered in blood. And you reach out and grab the reins of the horse to steady it. Now, you've got some experiences with horses. It won't make you roll because the horse is trained.
Mm-hmm.
You grab its reins and it begins to sort of come under control.
That's when I'll call out, "We need a healer."
The body begins to slump fully over, like it's going to fall off the
I'll
horse.
try to grab it.
Okay. So back at the camp, which again is not very far, it's, no more than 30 or 40 feet. Anyone who would like to wake up and be part of this scene can be. I'm not going to make some silly arbitrary rule. I know many of you are, on hair triggers, probably sleeping super, super light.
Yeah, I think the call for healer that Lysana would definitely be awake.
Okay. So you all rouse, and Varghast, you see you cradle this person in your arms, and they feel first of all they're dressed strangely for you. They have a long, dark clothing, and they have like a cape, some sort of riding cloak. They have fresh sandals, which are laced up all the way essentially to their knees. Their face is marked by dirt and blood, and you don't have a ton of light, so you can't really tell anything more than that. They appear solidly built, but they're not super heavy. They have a sword at their belt, this sort of gladius style sword at their belt, and then the horse has some pack, like a pack bag on the back of it. Those of you heading over, you could potentially bring a torch or something, because you're basically running off into the night. Because I don't think Varghast has a torch.
No, I was going to start bringing him towards the circle.
Okay. You start bringing him towards the circle.
I've grabbed a torch and I'm moving very quickly out towards Varghast and whoever this person he's carrying is.
Okay. You bring the light over. You carry this body over, and when the light hits it, all you see is red. And that's not because of the blood. It's the clothing.
Oh.
So, Faisal, what you all see, but you especially would see and understand pretty clearly and closely, that this is a lunar soldier. You watch the body jerk and gasp for breath.
Lysana, quickly.
Who is it? Yes. She will rush over there, and the moment she can tell that is a lunar soldier, she stops dead in her tracks.
They're helpless. We can't leave them like this. It would be dishonorable.
Yes.
How much honor do they have when they wipe us out? Why should we show them any better?
Because it's what makes us better than them.
Must we always be the better?
If we leave them to die, we're no better than they are. If you won't, I will.
Could give him something to hurry him on his way if he is that hurt. Let him see his goddess.
You will not take a life.
He's lost a lot of blood. He may not make it anyhow.
But if we heal him, he would owe us a favor.
Didn't we just do this? Are you actually considering how would be giving this one a mercy killing, which honestly they don't deserve, but I would do it in the name of being the better. But heal them up? What, keep them as a pet? Try to make them a servant? Send them back and ransom them again? How is that making us better?
I've gritted my teeth, and at this point I am ripping up part of their clothes and trying to bandage them up.
Okay. So that sounds like first aid.
It does. I have 35 in first aid, so we'll see how this goes. But at least I'm trying.
Sure.
That is a 2.
Okay. So, let's see here. 35 on a 2. So that's a critical. Critical success allows the user to heal 1d3 plus 3 points. So go ahead and roll a d6 and make it a d3 if you have any DCC dice available to you.
I rolled a 2, so that would be 1 point plus 3 is 4.
Yep.
Okay.
You bind their wounds. Really, what you honestly do is you take the arrows out of their back, and then you do what you can to keep them from bleeding. It's definitely something that you haven't had to do a sort of battlefield dressing recently, but you feel invigorated to be the better person.
I'm saying a prayer to Humoct as I'm doing this because I don't like doing it, but I know it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I would be angry that Faisal healed. I think it's an opportunity to gain information. And I'm not saying we can't let the lunar soldier go once we've gained information about the plans for the lunar army, where they might be at, stuff like that. So I think it's honorable that Faisal is keeping with, well, what they believe in, and I respect that. But I think the soldier would be useful, and we could let them go. Maybe.
So I'm going to go to the horse because I know there's a pack on there.
You go to the horse.
I'll start talking. Somebody shot this man for a reason. Let's find out what it is.
Okay. You head over to the horse.
The pack. I want to go through the pack.
Okay. Searching through the pack, you find a few things. You find what is basically like a couple of days of rations. You find just a few, maybe 10 or 12 L's that you find, lunar wheels that you find for money. And then there's a set of scrolls in there that are, who knows what they are.
Well, that's what I pull out.
Okay.
They're sealed?
Yep. You bet. Sealed, and you're not certain whose seal this is. It's sealed with red wax and a few symbols on them. Some of those symbols are lunar symbols.
I was going to open them, but I started thinking maybe there's a kind of curse put on them.
Maybe indeed.
That's the kind of shifty thing the lunars would do.
I mean, that's what you've been told, right?
Mm-hmm.
But who would shoot him?
Probably somebody who didn't want these delivered.
Quite possibly.
The arrows that were pulled from his body, do they look like just regular arrows, or do they have markings on them?
You've seen arrows more than a few in your day. I would say that the arrows that you pull from his body are fairly well intact. They're fairly well made. The fletchings are all reasonably new. I wouldn't say that they're military. But that's they're also not so distinct that you could trace them back to any one specific. It's not like they're covered in runes or anything like that. But there is, we'll just say that it's relatively dark wood, and the fletchings are also black feathers, which for you, Alara, would mean that these things would be real hard to see, like at twilight or dusk, because they're going to blend into everything.
Gonna find me some of these. I take the arrows. They'll probably still be useful, and I throw them in my whatever the fuck I call it.
I don't know, but you better come up with a name for it, because whatever the fuck you call it is not going to work.
I know.
Quiver.
The quiver. Yes. Thank you. Like the quiver.
Okay. Well, you take the lunar soldier back to camp, or are you going to leave him here by the road, Faisal?
I don't think it would go very well to take him back to camp. So,
Probably.
Yeah, I look at everyone else and says, I can guard him. If you want to go back and notify everyone else what's happening, or if you want to take those scrolls back and read them, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Head back. Take the scrolls.
Okay.
Hey, there's a free horse here.
I grab the horse.
It's covered in blood.
It's fine. We'll clean it. It matches my redness then.
It does. Actually, you kind of feel like this horse is colored red, and that kind of fits you.
It is. I'm going to have to think of a name. But not right now.
That's right, because right now, we're going to call close to this episode. So we've left Boldholm. We've journeyed closer to Jonstown. We have found a dead lunar soldier who was evidently shot in the back, not once, but twice. And at the, we'll just say, discretion of the Humok, they've healed them, which I find just hilarious, all in its own way. And will certainly not be any issue when that soldier comes around or when the caravan wakes back up tomorrow. So thanks for joining us on this episode, and we look forward to next time.